Dr. Marshall, 5 minutes.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'll start with Mr. Yiannas. Mr. Yiannas, I represent an agriculture district, and one of the big advantages that Kansas farmers, American farmers have, well, actually there's several. One is their ingenuity, their hard work. Number two is our infrastructure allows us to get our goods to market as efficient as anybody. But the third thing is I think we have an incredible food safety and quality that would compete with anybody in the world. So we're excited here. You're using this technology. And I think it would even give our farmers even a bigger advantage if you knew that we had consistent, better quality. So as you're making this transition to this, how do you see as food quality going to influence the purchase, where Walmart's going to be purchasing its goods from?
Well, it's just allowing us to be much more informed where the product's coming from and how it's being produced and how it flows. The benefits could be from increased assurances that the product's been produced safely, authenticity, the ability to track and trace products. It's the anonymity that often allows some people to do unscrupulous behaviors in the supply chain with such things such as economically motivated adulteration. But we've talked to farmers, and in terms of the stakeholder groups in the food system, farmers are probably one of the most important stakeholder groups that we want to hear from. And the initial read that we're getting is very positive. Farmers, when there is a food scare, are often falsely incriminated, and their crops are damaged, and so this allows them to clear their good name faster. Farmers take a lot of pride in how they produce products. It gives them the ability potentially to have a voice or a face with the customer, and so we are going to try to design a solution that's very sensitive to the farmer's needs.
Anybody else want to comment on food safety? Mr. Cuomo, go ahead.
Yes. One of the things that I think is important is the convergence of technologies. Blockchain is certainly I think a transformative technology, but there are other, I would say, cousins out there like Internet of Things and AI, and especially in like supply chain, taking the physical good and digitizing it on an immutable ledger, I think is really important. In my written testimony, I talk about some research that IBM is doing in a snap-on to an iPhone camera. A lens that does a spectral analysis. So, for example, if you take a picture of a vial of oil coming out of a Shell oil plant at the origin of the plant versus the at the pump, let's say, you can actually see the digital fingerprint as it was originally at the factory versus what you're seeing, and maybe you might find out that it has been watered down a little bit. So you can imagine physically digitizing an important complementary technology to blockchain and similar to AI, we're doing things with our Watson technology, for example, in diamond provenance with a company called Everledger to interpret and ingest the obligations of a very thick piece of regulation called the Kimberley Act, which is here to protect us all around proper processes around diamond mining. And what they're doing is they're using a smart contract to ensure that the diamond certificates all follow the rules of the Kimberley Act. So these cousins, I think, are also very important to supply chain. They can work very well together.
Well, we're excited to see the continued advancements in AI that you're having without us regulating you, over-regulating that process yet. So we're excited about that. I want to turn to health records. So I'm a physician as well. And one of my biggest struggles as we went through meaningful use for the hospital as well as physicians' practices is I explain it like this. I felt like the hospital had a Chevy. I had a Ford. The doctors, the orthopods across town had a Cadillac, and they wouldn't talk to each other. Or maybe one was in Spanish and one was in French and one was Greek or something. How do you all see this solving that dilemma where maybe love to hear more about the patients having control of their own records. Is it going to help solve this problem where we have 10, 20 different computer systems out there that speak different languages? I'm not sure who's our healthcare specialist. Go ahead.
Thank you for the question. In this example, and I speak about it in my testimony as well, providers maintain that health record in a manner that is consistent with federal and state law.
Sure.
So there's still a variety of systems in use. What the blockchain may publish is permissions to that record. So rather than a patient having to drive across town to pick up a disk of that health record to take it over to their next provider, providers could see that a permission for access to that record has been published to this blockchain, and then providers could then talk amongst themselves to transfer that record. This still comes with some pitfalls. One, all the providers have to be on the same blockchain, so they all have some kind of identity, a public and private key. And users have to take a more active role in managing that record for themselves.
But do you think this solves, right now what's happening in doctors' offices, I literally have to send it to them, they print it and copy it, and then they paste it into their record. Do you think this will solve that problem?
It is a potential technology that can be applied to that problem. Whether or not it solves it, it depends to be seen on its specific application.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you, Dr. Marshall. Ms. Esty.